put it in a nutshell, we had discovered the weak point of this system.
Derek Beackon and his colleagues were telling the truth.
Anyway, tonight we're here remembering what happened 20 years ago, which is when Derek Beackon won an election breakthrough in Millwall. Unfortunately, Derek can't be here tonight because, unfortunately, he's sick. But we do have some speakers who were around at the time. First of all, our keynote speaker, Richard Edmonds, who was, I believe, the national organiser at the time.
That's right.
He'll be followed by Dave King, who was the East London organiser and the agent for Derek Beackon in that election. And we'll have two more speakers, Frank Ford, who was another activist in '93, and ending with Peter Rushton. Anyway, let's move forward now with Richard Edmonds. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff, for that welcome. We're here to celebrate a tremendous political and social event that took place 20 years ago, and which was an event which was achieved by nationalists when we were all one party, we were all very happy with each other, and we were all focused on the task in hand, which was campaigning in elections. Around this borough here in Tower Hamlets, we had organised activity after activity after activity. We were famous with our slogan, Rights for Whites. That slogan was so much identified with our party, Rights for Whites, that the Home Office itself permitted us to put on the ballot papers for all of our candidates standing in elections around here, party description, British National Party, Rights for Whites. And we had a march down Roman Road, we had many activities around here, and the slogan always was Rights for Whites. And we defended that politically and socially. When all the leftists started screaming and shouting, we said, look, we are saying that us whites, the local whites, we have our rights too. We had tremendous support, and we worked very, very hard. And we and the community, the then white community, we really did gel. And you can see what results can be achieved when we gel together like that. I will say this, we know, we're all adults, we know that life is full of ups and downs. You have to go through the grim periods, winters are coming and we can get ready for winter and all that sort of thing. But I will say this, it's my belief that no matter what difficulties face us as a movement and whatever difficulties face the British people or the white race, I believe that in this world, you get your chances. You do get chances in this world, and the only question is whether you're good enough to seize those chances. And there's no doubt that the team we had 20 years ago seized the chance, and we made history. I will just repeat Jeff's opening words. Derek would like to have come along this evening, but he's a bit under the weather, nothing too serious, but he sends his greetings to everybody, and you can say that Derek Beackon and a lot of other people are here in spirit, there's no doubt about it. I'll also say on a bit of a bracket, as a former member of the British National Party, and indeed, ladies and gentlemen, the national organiser at the time. I was the national organiser, Dave was the local East London organiser, and there was other people as well. I would just say, I think it's a bit of a pity that there's not some more BNP people in this hall, actually. I do think that's a bit of a pity. However, perhaps they're here in spirit. Anyway, if they'd come, they'd been very, very welcome. We'd like to have seen them. Anyway, we press on. Yes, that was a great triumph, that was the first ever victory for our racial nationalist cause, and the news of Derek Beackon winning that election went literally all around the world. This is the cover of John Tyndall's magazine, and this photograph here was produced on the international edition of the Daily Express, and this literal photograph here was sent to us by a supporter in South Africa from, getting the Daily Express over there in South Africa, the international edition, and it was sent back to JT, who put it on the front cover. Unfortunately, I've only got one of these, and it's mine, but there are copies around, without a doubt. I believe Dave may have a copy as well, but if you really wanted a few photocopies, I suppose I could knock them off for you. But there it was, a tremendous victory, and it was the first time ever, that in a straight fight, we beat the wicked establishment parties Labour, Tory, Liberal Democrat. We beat them in a straight fight for the first time ever. An event which we will never forget. All those who took part in that election will never forget. I'll jump ahead of it myself here. We worked very hard in the election, and halfway through the campaign, Eddie Butler, who was the sort of brains behind all this, we did the work, and Eddie did a lot of work, but Eddie Butler was, with others, of course, with others, he conceived of it, and he phoned me up one day, because we'd done a tremendous amount of canvassing. We did a lot of leafleting. We worked very, very hard. We leafleted a great deal, but the secret was, it's no secret, everybody knows how we did it. It was systematic, repeated systematic canvassing on all those doors. And about 10 days before polling day, Eddie Butler phoned me up and said to me, Richard, I've been looking at the election returns, the canvass returns of the ward, Isle of Dogs, Millwall ward, and I think that we've got a chance of winning. Never before in an election had we had a chance of winning. And Eddie was so much on the ball and had so made it into a system that he had his fingers on the actual results. It wasn't that just we were canvassing blind. We knew exactly who was on our side, because we recorded all the yeses, we recorded all the doubtfuls, we recorded it systematically, the yeses and the nos, and Butler was able to tell me, Richard, when we had a chance. Of course, once we heard that, we were galvanised. We worked much harder. We canvassed all those houses again and again, persuading the strong votes, the firm votes to turn out on polling day, and going back to the masses of ditherers, all those, oh yeah, I agree with you, mate, I agree with you, going back and yes, 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 you've got to vote for us, we could win this, this could change British, this could change British politics, this election, as indeed it did. With that election, we showed the people around here, first of all in the Isle of Dogs, then the London Borough of Tower Hamlets, and then the whole of the East End, and then rippling out was across the whole of Britain, and indeed, as I proved to you, all around the white world. We proved that we could win, and that we proved that the British people would support us. And there were two victories there. The British people saw that when we campaigned with them, and they supported us, that we could win. And I will tell you on a second point here, that not only gave people the confidence to support our party and to join our party, but it also gave us confidence, because the fact is, we're humans, and we need support, and when we get a victory like that, it gives you the heart to continue. It gives you the heart to know that you can win, because there's always negatives in this world, and one has to factor the negatives in. There were doubting Thomases, both within our ranks, and doubting Thomases certainly outside our ranks, who said to us, matey, you'll never ever win. You'll do well, but you'll never win. And that proved those doubting Thomases wrong. We could win, and that was the great result for us. It gave us the confidence, and it inspired other groups. It inspired, for example, it inspired Steve Smith in Burnley. They were inspired, and then they campaigned, and Steve got up there in Burnley, got 3 councillors elected on Burnley Borough Council. The next year he got more, and then the whole success, because success breeds success. Success breeds success. In the end, we won those wonderful seats in Barking and Dagenham, and the whole thing rolled on, and at one stage we had dozens and dozens and dozens of councillors. We proved that this election here changed British politics. It changed British politics. We broke the mould. That negative, mate, you'll never win. And when you hear that, and when you've never won, when you've worked hard and hard and hard, and you've not won, there's a little canker inside your brain box. Can we do it? When you do it, when we won, it was a tremendous day, a tremendous evening, which we will not forget. But I will say something else here. We were very, very, very naive. We had a great deal to learn. And I will say that the wicked anti-British establishment, represented by the Labour Party, who are no friends of the working class, of course, represented by the Tories, who are no friends of the patriots, or those who love this country, and the Liberal Democrats, well, you know all about Liberal Democrats, that they recognised much quicker than we did what had been achieved. We, in our naivety, it took us a long time to understand that we had broken the mould and changed British politics. Of course, we was very, very happy with the results, but we had done a great deal more than we actually than we imagined. Remember, there are about 10,000 councillors in Britain. We thought we got one of them. What we didn't realise was we had more than one, because potentially we could get hundreds or thousands of councillors, and we were a bit slow to recognise what we'd achieved. At least I'll speak for myself. But the wicked establishment knew within 24 hours what we had done, and within 24 hours they understood that we had changed politics, that we had organised and encouraged and given the British people enough spirit, put enough political ideas in their heads in a 2-minute canvass, on the doorstep. All you've got to do, 2 minutes, done systematically, put ideas in people's heads and give them heart. We had, the British people, at our instigation, had risen up and rejected the vicious establishment which is choking the life out of our people. The British people had seen through the lies and the broken promises. They'd seen the politicians of the old parties as destroying Britain and destroying the communities that we're attempting to lead our little lives in. And it was us, British nationalists, organised, inspired, led by men on the ground, who had achieved this. To put it in a nutshell, we had discovered the weak point of this system. We had discovered the Achilles heel of the politicians. They were absolutely vulnerable at the ballot box. Absolutely. Organised men and women, systematically. No, what was brilliant was here, because it started it. But I never forget the result in Dagenham, where our party put up, 13 candidates, and 12 of them were elected in one sweep, because the people were on our side, and because we knew how to work, because we trained ourselves, we knew how to do it, we knew the trick on the doorstep. A 2-minute conversation on the doorstep, a 2-minute, serious and sober, speaking for local people. We don't want Dagenham to be like further inland, further towards London, and it worked every time. We learned how the weakness of the system, and the weakness of the system is the British people don't want what's happening in this country, and when we organise ourselves, the slogan was, the lesson was, throw them out, throw them out, throw them out. I'm going to give some credit here. I'll mention 3 names. Derek Beackon was our brave councillor, the first man, the first British nationalist elected councillor to go into that snake pit, also known as the local borough council chamber. A very brave man. You don't need me to tell, back in those days, there was always a mob, an anti-British mob, baying outside that town hall, and Derek was escorted in, and I can tell you the man who was the head of that security team, who got Derek into the council chamber and Derek out of the council chamber on every occasion. That was our East London organiser, Dave here, who was going to speak a bit later on about the details of how that was done. And I will mention, for the sake of justice, that the other man who deserves credit, it's a pity this more can't hear this actually, the other man who deserves credit was Eddie Butler. Eddie Butler, with others, but I'm singling out 3 men here. Derek, the candidate and councillor, Dave, the local man on the ground, and Eddie Butler. I'm going to give Eddie the credit for conceiving that campaign and masterminding it, having the facts so much at his fingertips that he knew that we were within an ace of winning. So we pushed that much harder, and I think we won by 13 lucky votes, I think that's what it was, 13 lucky votes.
Only 7, Richard.
What?
7.
7, you're right, 7. 7 lucky votes. What I'm thinking is the House of Traitors down the road threw out the war plans by 13 lucky votes, didn't they? Hey? All them warmongers were thrown out. Good job too. Yes, 7 votes, 7 votes, 7 votes. I'll tell you a little story, if you like, going off again. We all went down to count the votes, yes? Well, only so many were allowed in the count. Dave, of course, Derek Beackon, Eddie Butler, of course. And little me, only the national organiser, I was the guy who didn't get on the list. So I was stuck outside in possibly the most interesting place amongst all the press. Because the press were there like flies on you-know-what. The press were there. And we'd bought in anticipation, a bottle of champagne. And I was a bit bloody embarrassed with this. I was having to stare at all these press people with a great bottle of champagne. So I tried to hide it under a chair, and they said to me, "Optimistic, Mr. Edmonds, optimistic?" I said, "Well, we'll see. Anyway, halfway through, Eddie comes out and whispers in my earhole and says to me, there's a recount. It's so close, there's a recount. At the moment, we're in front." And Eddie said to me, Labour's demanded a recount because they want to try and find a few more votes. So the press could see me, Eddie whispering in my shell-like earhole, and then he rushed back into the town hall, which I don't think they're actually supposed to do, but never mind that. Then the press all said to me, "What's all that about, Mr. Edmonds?" Guess for the inside story. I said, "There's a difference of 7 votes. And they sort of, 7 votes, really? And then one of the cuter press people said, "Who's asking for the recount?" Because obviously the loser is going to ask for the recount, isn't he? If you're winning, you don't ask for a recount. Who's asking for the recount? In the moment of my life, Labour is asking for the recount. Hooray! And then we came out and had this. Oh, tremendous evening. Tremendous evening. There were 3 things got us through that. Courage, energy, and commitment. They were the 3 things that got us through there. And Nationalists, that's what we won that election, with courage, energy, and commitment. We were on a roll, obviously, on a roll. And I will say there's one more quality needed by us Nationalists, and that is patience and perseverance. Because you're not always going to win. We've been in this. You know, people, men and women in this room have been in this for decades. This is my life. This is our lives. We have dedicated our lives to the British people. The British people are a wonderful people. They've created a wonderful civilization. They're being utterly betrayed by most of that mob down at Parliament there, and in these local snake pits, also known as council chambers. So, in addition to the courage, the commitment and the energy, patience and perseverance. We're in a long struggle here. We just do it. It's most interesting. When you come into nationalism, you have an understanding, you see that Lib, Lab and Con are absolute trash. Absolute trash. You know the newspapers are all full of lies, just nonsense. Ditto every television except our own. Advert for our own one. You see life entirely differently. And we know that if we persevere, we'll get our chances. I have no doubt about that. We'll get our chances. There's one final thing I'd like to say here, then I'll let the others have a go. And that is, I'd like to mention one more thing here. The election took place under the leadership of John Tyndall. John Tyndall had founded the party about a dozen years before, in 1982, I think the BNP was formed. 1982, he'd formed that. Great man, he'd been chairman of the National Front in the 1970s. There was one of these problems in nationalism which we tried to live with without making it too personal. Then it sorted itself out and it became the BNP, which John Tyndall founded. And John Tyndall, in his wisdom, founded the party as a racial nationalist party. A racial nationalist party because John Tyndall understood racial nationalism is the only force which will now save the British people. The only force that can now save this situation is our love for our race and our fears for the genocide that is rapidly approaching the whole white race. Because what's happening in Britain is identical to Western Europe, identical to the United States of America, Canada, Australia. Every white race is run by traitors. And it's up to the men and women of every white race. We could talk about Marine Le Pen is doing very, very well. She hopes to do well in the spring elections next year. I hope she does. There's the Golden Dawn in Greece, and there's other very, very brave men and brave women. I see that Pauline Hanson has come back in Australia, another brave woman who they put in prison in their wickedness. I see that she's now she's a senator in the state of Queensland. She's another brave woman. And it is our love for our people and our fear for the clearly approaching genocide, though I know, as we all do, that we will win. I know that we will win. We are an intelligent people, we're a disciplined people. Everybody in this room would not have attended this meeting if we knew, if they had doubts. We all know that we can win, and that was sort of so wonderfully vital about that election success 20 years ago. It's our fear, it's our love and our fears that motivate us. It's our love and our fear that motivated us at Isle of Dogs. And Millwall was a victory for race and nation. It was a victory that proved that we could win. And it was a victory that showed that in Britain's darkest hour, we stand by the British people and the British people stand by us. Look, finally, I've got some spearheads here on the table there. This is the final edition, the memorial edition for John Tyndall. There's a few left. They're being sold for £1, and there's 1 or 2 other magazines over there as well. So thanks for listening to me. Thank you very much.